Hey y'all, and welcome to Brawl. My name is Brian, and Pete Hegseth just tears apart the ridiculous questions of Senator Hirono before the rest of the Senate. Let's dive in.
Especially given your checkered past, which included paying $50,000 in hush money to settle a sexual assault allegation against you, and driving two veterans organizations into the ground. After only months on the job, our concerns about you have proven true, as far as I'm concerned. Instead of strengthening national security, you've turned the Pentagon into a dysfunctional mess. You are jeopardizing military operations and service members' lives with your unprecedented action of texting classified military plans to anyone who might stroke your ego. Leading the Department of Defense is more than just a PR campaign filled with photo ops. While you pose for cameras, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine continues unabated. Israel and Iran are also at war, in large part because your boss tore up a multilateral agreement former President Obama brokered with the UK, France, Germany, China, and Russia that curbed Iran's nuclear program and ambitions. Meanwhile, China advances in the Pacific as this regime undermines and attacks our allies. At a time when steady leadership is critical, we are confronted with crisis and instability. Mr. Secretary, close to 5,000 Marines and National Guards have been deployed to LA without the request or consent of the California governor or the Los Angeles mayor, Bass. Rather than calming the situation, this troop deployment is purposefully inflaming and escalates tensions. You claim lethality is your top priority. Do you plan to unleash this lethal force against U.S. citizens and civilians in LA and other cities?
Well, Senator, I would reject most of the characterization of that statement, including lethality against U.S. cities, when all of those National Guardsmen and Marines have conducted themselves with the utmost of professionalism, defending our federal agents, Americans, who deserve to be able to do their job to deport illegal immigrants after the previous administration allowed 21 million illegals to cross our border.
I am not here to listen to rhetorical responses. I would like to have a professional response that I would expect from somebody who is the Secretary of Defense. Millions of people peacefully demonstrated this weekend against the president's acting like a king. Given this regime's dangerous policy of mobilizing troops inside the U.S., the politicizing of the military is a legitimate concern. So, given the dangerous policy of mobilizing troops inside the U.S., if ordered by the president, I'm going to ask you once again, to shoot peaceful protesters in the legs, would you carry out such an order from the president?
Senator, as I've said before, of course, I reject the premise of your question and the characterization that I would be given or are given on lawful orders. It's all meant to attempt to smear the commander-in-chief, and I won't fall for it.
Considering that the president in his first term actually ordered such a thing, it is not a premise that you can reject. He can order, do the same thing. So I think you would just follow what the president wants you to do. Let's face it, it is not normal to call up our troops in this way, and there is active litigation against this deployment. Will you follow a court's order regarding whether or not this deployment is legal? If the court says this deployment of troops into our cities is not legal, would you follow that court's order?
It's pending in the courts, Senator.
Well, when the court decides, would you follow that court's order, decision?
I don't believe district courts should be determining national security policy.
So you will not be following that.
When it goes to the Supreme Court, we'll see.
Court. And unless the president decides to appeal, there you have it. So I take it that you don't consider district court decisions to be legitimate.
Move over, Ronald McDonald. There is a new nationally recognized clown, and unfortunately this doesn't come with a McPlay Place or a Happy Meal. Senator Hirono as perhaps one of the most annoying senators to deal with up on Capitol Hill because she does nothing but do mental gymnastics in order to ask any relevant questions. And let's be honest, if she was in the mental gymnastics she'd probably place at least for silver, maybe even get a gold medal. This is absolutely ridiculous. None of those questions hold any water whatsoever. First off, we've been over the district court battle. The Supreme Court, when dealing with the Abreu Garcia case, quite literally gave the decision 9-0, saying that a lower court cannot dictate policy. You can't do that. That is the purview of the President of the United States. The lower courts can say, well, something has been incorrect in between two individual states. They can find other issues here and there, but they cannot tell a president that you cannot do even what you are quite literally allowed to do by the Constitution. So a much better question that Senator Hirono needs to be asking is, well, are these actions legitimate? The problem is she knows the answer. A president can indeed go over the head of a sitting governor and deploy the National Guard. That is a legal move. It's rare. It is rare that that ever happens. Usually in that situation, a governor is either just feckless and bad at his job, or ultimately is fighting against the president himself, and the president's wanting to make a point. Presidents don't usually like getting in fights with governors. That never usually ends well, and it always causes extra tension. But in this case, when it comes to the Los Angeles riots that spiraled almost out of control, for some reason, Los Angeles seems to go on this weird riot spree every 33 years. I think there was one in 1959. There was another one in 1992. And then again, 59, 92. Yeah, the math adds up. And then again here in 2025, all because ICE agents were doing their jobs in trying to round up and deport illegal migrants who are not here with any vetting process whatsoever. I think that that's a problem when a city decides to lose its mind after federal agents are doing their jobs. And then the response to that not only was a riot, then their response to more federal agents doing their jobs was to expand the riots. I think that's called an insurrection, ladies and gentlemen. That's what a rebellion looks like. Los Angeles is arguably an open rebellion. Fortunately, most of the problems have been quelled, but the fact is, if you have a segment of your population as a country that is basically rebelling against you, what do? Do you let it spiral out of control and basically get more people joining in on the rebellion? That's a terrible idea. That ends up with property damage, that ends up in lost political capital, and it might even lose American, or in this case, illegal immigrant lives. And I don't say that to be glib. I say that to be just sadly real about the whole situation. There's a whole segment in Southern California who are the children of immigrants and care more about the nation that their parents left than the nation that currently provides them a better life. When you are flying another nation's flag, despite being a national of your own nation, your loyalties are rightfully in question. That's just the game you're playing, and I'm playing right along with you. I question their loyalty. And then I have to question Gavin Newsom and his ability to do his job. After the president basically said, I'm going over your head, Gavin Newsom then deploys 800 more law enforcement officers to the area. So basically Gavin Newsom was told to do his job by the president, twiddled his thumbs for too long, and then finally did something to make it look like he's doing the right thing. Karen Bass is also doing next to nothing until it was far too late, finally implementing a different kind of lockdowns and curfew laws, which basically means that, there's a lot of Los Angeles that seems to be an open rebellion. Senator Hirono might want to ask about these questions since the Democrats care so much about insurrection, don't you think? That would be a legitimate question, but no, she's out here asking these ridiculous what-if scenarios, and Pete Hegseth is right to reject the very premise of these questions. The very premise of these questions are set to trap. They are not set to get to the truth of the matter, and they don't make America safer. Matter of fact, it makes the division even worse. Senator Hirono is one of the worst when it comes to the federal government in this regard. She has her head buried deep in the sand, or worse, she is actively running point, trying to divide the country and try to remind everyone that yes, it's good to rebel against the federal government of the United States. This makes no sense whatsoever. She is either in support of an insurrection, or she is too... I don't like calling sitting senators dumb. She is too mentally incapacitated to understand what she's talking about. There's no in between. And Pete Hegseth is handling the situation as best as he possibly can, and he's right to basically say that I reject the premise of your question. He then goes on to say that I will respect the president's wishes. I will also respect the orders given. I will also respect actual court decisions, not a lower district court that might not have any actual jurisdiction in the potential lawsuit that Gavin Newsom is now levying against the president. This is a legal nightmare for the Democrats because they're either admitting that they love rebellion or they don't actually know how our own Constitution works. This is not going to end well for her. So congratulations, Senator. You now have a gold medal for mental gymnastics, but you are taking last place for, actual mental acuity. Pete Hegseth ate her lunch here and gave the correct answers to these ridiculous questions. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Brawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.